Hey, yo, what the deal, my people? You know who it is. The Don Tony Teflon. Cha! And I'm back at you with another video. And it seems that since my favorite character, the man who should be sitting the Iron Throne, the one true king of Westeros, Stannis, the King Baratheon, did this unbelievable thing, this horrific event, in burning his daughter Shireen. People have come to me and they've asked me, they've said, Tony Teflon, will Stannis Baratheon in the books do the same thing to Shireen in the show? Now, when I'm asked that question, that brings up a whole bunch of different questions. That brings up the Battle of Ice. That brings up the Pink Letter. And that brings up Azor Ahai. So in order to tackle that question, I'm going to have to tackle these other three questions. Now, I'm going to have to use the show and the book to do this, because obviously Dan and Dave know things about the books that we don't know. So a lot of their stuff that they're doing has to be taken as canon, and a lot of their stuff has to not be taken as canon too, and we know what those things are. So one thing we do know is that Shireen will burn. Alright, that's gonna happen, because Dan and Dave straight up have thrown George R. R. Martin right under the bus, saying that he is the reason why they put that scene in there. So we know that's going to happen. So first, Stannis Baratheon and burning Shireen. Now, the reason why we get Stannis Baratheon burning Shireen is ludicrous, it's disgusting, it's straight up stupid. Alright? This is a man that we know that has survived much more horrible events in the siege of Storm's End.
We were forgotten. Robert and Ned Stark, they were the heroes, the glorious rebels, marching from battle to battle, liberating towns from the yoke of the Mad King, while I held Storm's End with 500 men.
No one has forgotten your grace.
No, Robert did. He gave Storm's End to Renly after the war. Renly never fought a day in his life.
He was only a boy.
So why'd he give him Storm's End? First we ate the horses. We weren't riding anywhere, not with the castle surrounded. We couldn't feed them, so fine, the horses. Then the cats. Never liked cats, so fine. I do like dogs. Good animals, loyal, but we ate them. Then the rats. The night before you slipped through, I thought my wife was dying. She couldn't speak anymore, she was so frail. And then you made it through the lines. Slipped right through in your little black sail boat with your onions.
No, but it is some salted beef, I believe.
Every man on Storm's End wanted to kiss you that night.
I was relieved they did not.
So for someone to have come through that is unbelievable, that this man would burn his daughter for that reason. So I cannot see Stannis burning Shireen for that reason. What I've come up with, there is no way that I see Stannis Baratheon losing the Battle of Ice. But in the show, we see Stannis Baratheon lose the battle and lose his life. So we have to ask ourselves, why did Dan and Dave do that? Melisandre, I believe, and this goes into the Azor Ahai situation, when she hits the wall, she's going there with the intent of believing that Stannis Baratheon is Azor Ahai. But after being at the wall and looking into her fires for a while, she realizes that Jon Snow is Azor Ahai.
It was never truly dark in Melisandre's chambers. 3 tallow candles burned upon her windowsill to keep the terrors of the night at bay. 4 more flickered beside her bed, 2 to either side. In the hearth a fire was kept burning day and night. The first lesson those who would serve her had to learn was that the fire must never, ever be allowed to go out. The Red Priestess closed her eyes and said a prayer. then opened them once more to face the hearth fire. One more time, she had to be certain. Many a priest and priestess before her had been brought down by false visions, by seeing what they wished to see, instead of what the Lord of Light had sent.
So George R. R. Martin uses Melisandre right here to point out that people in visions get things wrong and they see what they want to see. She is certain not to make that happen and make that same mistake, so she's going back to watch it again, and she's just begging to see something different than what she has already seen.
A face took shape within the hearth. Stannis, she thought, just for a moment. But no, these were not his features. A wooden face, corpse white. Was this the enemy? 1,000 red eyes floated in the rising flames. He sees me. Beside him, a boy with a wolf's face threw back his head and howled.
So she gets her face, but not the one she's expecting to see. She hopes to see Stannis when she sees the face, thinking that, oh my god, Stannis is Azor Ahai, yes. But instead, she gets the face of Brandon Bloodraven Rivers and Bran Stark. And she associates them with the enemy. Also, she associates Stannis with them. So Stannis, Bloodraven, and Bran are all associated with other. Now remember, when she first got there, she thought that Stannis was Azor Ahai and that the fate of the world was on his shoulders.
Stannis was marching south into peril. The king who carried the fate of the world upon his shoulders, Azor Ahai reborn. Shorey R'hllor would vouchsafe her a glimpse of what awaited him.
Whether it's the fact that she's seen Stannis get defeated in the Battle of Ice, now I'm not sure if he does, but whether she sees that, or she sees that she's associated with the Great Other, for whatever reason, at that particular time she realizes that she has to save the world herself, and the fate of the world is in her hand.
She had no time for sleep, with the weight of the world upon her shoulders, and she feared to dream. Sleep is a little death, dreams the whisperings of the other, who would drag us all into his eternal night.
So as you've seen, she associated Brandon Bloodraven Rivers' ability to go into people's dreams with the ability of the Great Other. So, right from this, we can see that the people who are able to go into the trees, the people who are able to go into dreams, that is the magic of the Great Other. That is the magic of the enemy. So now we have Melisandre believing that she has to fulfill this Azor Ahai prophecy herself. And we know that she thinks that Stannis is going to be defeated because she held back Davos' son from going with Stannis.
The lad had taken great pride in serving as a king's squire, and it had wounded him when Stannis commanded him to remain at Castle Black. Like any boy his age, his head was full of dreams of glory. No doubt he had been picturing the prowess he would display at Deepwood Motte. Other boys his age had gone south to serve as squires to the king's knights and ride into battle at their side. Devon's exclusion must have seemed a rebuke, a punishment for some failure on his part, or perhaps for some failure of his father. In truth, he was here because Melisandre had asked for him. The 4 eldest sons of Davos Seaworth had perished in the battle on the Blackwater when the king's fleet had been consumed by green fire.
Although it's not said, it seems that she must have seen Stannis get defeated in some type of battle to want to save his son. And that is why she has him here. So now, realizing she has to fulfill the Azor Ahai prophecy. And remember, she's seen these things before. This is not the first time she's looking at them. So knowing she has to fulfill the Azor Ahai prophecy, she needs to know who Azor Ahai is.
The flames crackled softly, and in their crackling she heard the whispered name, Jon Snow. His long face floated before her, limned in tongues of red and orange, appearing and disappearing again. A shadow half seen behind a fluttering curtain. Now he was a man, now a wolf, now a man again. But the skulls were here as well. The skulls were all around him. Melisandre had seen his danger before, had tried to warn the boy of it. Enemies all around him, daggers in the dark. He would not listen. Unbelievers never listened, until it was too late.
So we see here that R'hllor not only gives her the face of Azor Ahai so she knows exactly who it is, he speaks to her and says the name Jon Snow so she knows for without a doubt that he is Azor Ahai. Also, we see R'hllor show her how he's going to be killed, daggers in the dark. And this is something she had already seen him being killed and tried to warn him of this. But at that time, she did not realize he was Azor Ahai. Now she does, and now she understands that once he's killed, he will turn into a wolf and then come back out of the wolf into a man again. Now, we got to remember that Melisandre knows the whole Azor Ahai prophecy. She knows probably all about Nissa, knows all about everything. So it seems at this time that she thinks that possibly she could be Nissa in this story. And then Jon Snow kind of shuts that down for her.
Lord Snow, Melisandre said quietly, will you come with me to the King's Tower? I have more to share with you. He looked at her face for a long moment with those cold grey eyes of his. His right hand closed, opened, closed again. As you wish. Ed, take Ghost back to my chambers. Melisandre took that as a sign, and dismissed her own guard as well. They crossed the yard together, just the two of them. The snow fell all around them. She walked as close to Jon Snow as she dared, close enough to feel the mistrust pouring off him, like a black fog. He does not love me, will never love me, but he will make use of me.
So I believe at this particular time, Melisandre realizes she is not Nissa. She is not to play the Nissa role, but play the role to resurrect Jon. Now, she knows Jon is going to be killed, but how would she make that happen? That brings into the whole situation with the pink letter. Now, we know that Melisandre has Mance Rayder under her control, and he is her slave. She sends him out in order to gain some type of favor for Jon by finding his sister Arya. That is what supposedly is happening. But she could be playing the long con here, and she could be the reason why the letter was sent back. Now, whether that's from Mance, if Mance is under her control, or from her sending it herself and giving it to Jon, because we know that this is the thing that eventually gets Jon stabbed, and this is the thing that's going to allow her to resurrect him after. And another thing to say about Mance Rayder is, if Mance Rayder is killed and he is her slave, she will feel this, because she felt it when she was using the glamour on the Lord of Bones.
When the flames had licked at Rattleshirt, the ruby at her throat had grown so hot that she feared her own flesh might start to smoke and blacken. Thankfully, Lord Snow had delivered her from that agony with his arrows. While Stannis had seethed in defiance, she had shuddered with relief.
I think it's a good possibility that Melisandre set this up from the beginning after seeing all these visions and realizing that Stannis was going to be killed. He is not Azor Ahai, and that Jon Snow is Azor Ahai. She needed to get him to go from the wall. It's plausible that she had the most to do with this letter, and whether it is Mance that wrote it for her or she wrote it herself, it seems that she is behind the letter that gets Jon stabbed. So, to answer the question that is posed, is Stannis Baratheon going to burn Shireen? My answer is no. I do not think Stannis will burn Shireen. And even though Dan and Dave had all the people in place on the series to do it the way the book is going to do it, this is the reason why I don't think they did it that way. I believe that Melisandre will burn Shireen. And the reason why she's going to burn Shireen is to resurrect Jon Snow. And I think that they do not want to have Jon Snow, their leading character, in any way tarnished in any way. And the burning of Shireen, even though it brings him back as a champion, could tarnish his character. So I think that Dan and Dave made the decision to switch it around this way and put the blame on Stannis instead of putting it on Jon Snow. So, if you like the way I do this, please thumbs up it, please subscribe, and please share this and spread this across the realm. And until next time, you know who it is. Peace! And stay sexy.